Everyone. It is a wonder and a mystery that our paths have crossed, that in the immensity of time and the vastness of space, we have coincided here. I am in awe at the ways in which our lives intersect and intertwine, at the beauty we create when we gather. May our coming together make us more compassionate, more just, more caring, and more loving. May our hearts and minds be open to this offering. I am so glad that you are here. Let us worship. Let us marvel at the miracle of being here right now and the mystery that has brought us together. Come, let us worship together.
danced up here after that, Brian. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. This is a welcoming congregation, and we are always working on how to better welcome and care for one another. If this is your first time here, we don't always wear these hats. We're so glad you've come, and whoever you are, we welcome you in the fullness of who you are. My name is Virginia Frederick, also known as Ginger. Today, Sandy Portillo Robbins, Karen Elliott, Smiley Nelson, Don Kloss, and I are sharing the role of worship associate for Reverend Collins' last final day of preaching in her term as our interim minister. She has served here since August of 2020. Robin Cooper and Jason Russell, the other worship associates, were unable to join us today. So as we begin, we acknowledge that this church land occupies land in Huichin, the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. We understand that we continue to benefit from the seizure and occupation of this land. We acknowledge and embrace our responsibility to take formative action. We affirm that this is deeply felt and commit our congregation to be in right relation with Indigenous communities, aligning in solidarity, supporting Indigenous projects, and caring properly for the land.
Let us kindle our chalice flame with these words by Atticus Palmer. We call this light before us in hope that we may always remain a strong community, working together to make the world a better place. When we are grieving or sad, when we are challenged, when we need help, the flame guides us out of the darkness. When we are cheerful, when we celebrate, when we accomplish a great task, when we return to a place that makes us happy, the chalice reminds us to share our happiness with others. We also pause to remind ourselves of some of the foundations of resilience. With Reverend Michelle, we light a candle of courage, a candle of acts of service, a candle of fellowship, and a candle of hope. May we find and cultivate these foundations of resilience in ourselves and in one another. And now, please rise in body or spirit to join in our opening song, Blue Boat Home, number 1064 in the Teal hymnal. The words will be on the screen.
Is my please remain standing and join with me in saying our covenant. Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose. To give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things. Thank you. Please be seated.
YCC is so happy to be here this morning. You know, children every year, they change jobs, right? They're in a new classroom with a new teacher. And surely changing congregations is old hat for Reverend Michelle. She's done it before, she'll do it again. But still, there can be things that are scary. There are things that are new, things are challenges, right? So we thought we'd take a fear that she had that we knew about, because she's mentioned it right here in service at least 2 times. And that's, what's the sign language, guys? Spiders and snakes. So there's this great song by Mary Miché. I bet a lot of you in here know Mary Miché, best STEM songwriter for elementary kids. And she kind of reframed how we might want to think about spiders and snakes, so that's our song. And that's the surprise. We love you, done with love. And if you want to do the sign language with us, we've got spiders, we've got snakes, and then I'm going to learn, we pluck the knowledge, pluck it, and put it in our brain. I'm going to learn to love them no matter what it takes. No matter how long it takes. I learned it wrong, and it's really hard to unlearn it wrong. Okay, ready?
Spiders and snakes, spiders and snakes. I'm gonna learn to love them no matter how long it takes. Spiders and snakes, spiders and snakes. I'm gonna learn to love them no matter how
Today is special for many, many reasons. We are here to honor and celebrate Reverend Michelle. And also, we are here to celebrate something else. Today is a special day. Today is Father's Day. So I would like to take a moment to honor the fathers and the grandfathers of UUCB. I believe in fathering. I believe in the radical idea that men have the full human capacity to nurture. Hair bows and baseballs, cooking and creativity, tools and tiaras, camping and dancing, snuggles and shrieks of delight. I believe in fathering. When a human being gestates and gives birth, their brain changes permanently. A father's brain changes permanently too. Changes as he rocks his baby to sleep, delights in baby games, and soothes bumps and bruises. A father earns his new neurobiology. I believe in fathering. I believe in the radical idea that men have the full human capacity to nurture. Whether their children come through birth, adoption, or fostering, through scouts, sports, Sunday school, or youth group. I've known too many single fathers, too many gay dads, and too many men raising children that others couldn't to believe otherwise. I believe in fathering. I believe we all, especially our children, deserve to know that the human capacity to nurture belongs to every one of us. I believe in fathering. I celebrate all the fathers and grandfathers of UUCB and the world. And now I would like to honor some of those fathers. And if I call your name and you feel so inclined, please come forward. I would like to offer you a token of appreciation. And if I do not say your name, please know that these tokens will be outside on the family ministry table should you choose to get one for yourself. I'd like to give you a token of tiger's iron, and I realize that I've left them in my basket over there, so I will get it in a moment. But I want to give you a tiger's eye, because tiger's eye is a stone that represents the divine masculine. It is a stone of courage. It is a stone of power. Thank you so much. A stone of protection. It's used for prosperity, willpower, and strength. And if you have a need, all you need to do for strength is literally look into the eye of the tiger that will be with you. So I would like to call forward some fathers and grandfathers. I want to say that grandfathers are sages, right? Fathers are kings, as mothers are queens, and grandmothers are wise women. Fathers are kings and grandfathers are sages, as they are consulted and asked for wisdom by their grandchildren, by their children themselves. So I would like to honor King Patrick Cullinane, Sage Thomas Tripp, King Michael Armstrong, King Gregory Lemieux, King Ajit Smith Ayer, King Vahid Shemansky, King James Jackson, King Robert Moore, Bob, Sage Paul King, Sage Leroy Gibson. That's my father, who's not here with us today, but I wanted to make sure I said his name. King Jack Duggan, King Brian O'Riva, and Sage Sheldon Jones. If I have missed your name again, I will have tokens on the family ministry table so that you may choose one. So I would like for us to just take a moment and look at these brilliant sages and kings in our community. We are so grateful for you. Let's give them a hand. Yep. And now they get to choose their own eye of the tiger so they can keep shining and being as wonderful and amazing as they are. because I'm a bit of a fashionista. It's a stone, and it's also, you can make it into a necklace. It's got a hole in the center, so you can make it into a necklace, you can make it into a bracelet, you can hold it in your hand, but no matter what you do it, I hope it will bless you and give you strength, and thank you so much for the strength and the love that you have given us. One more hand.
We give and receive so much in this community, so now we get to sing about that as we sing the kids to their activities.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
As the music has just blessed us and run around us, holding us in this hug, I invite you to sit and stay in that hug and that blessing that the choir has just offered to us. I invite us to sit in silence for a few moments, allowing yourself to be surrounded and continue to be hugged with it. usually I'd have some words and then we'd sing or hear some sort of meditative song. But today, I would like our song itself to be our communal prayer. I invite you to sink into the words and the music as we share this lovely hymn together. Please remain seated, winds be still, number 83 in the gray hymnal, and the words will be on screen.
Now, after 3 years without a settled ministry, we have called Reverend Marcus Leaford, set to begin in August. But how did we get here? The selection process must still seem opaque to many of you, as most of it, by design, took place out of public view. The selection process is long and complex, and we on the Ministerial Search Committee had no idea what we were getting into, or that we would be in close partnership with the UUA Transitions Office, which provided us with a detailed roadmap in a very thick handbook. When we had questions, our consultants in the UUA Transitions Office were available and most helpful. The whole search process is divided into 2 parts. July through November, we prepared our presentation of UUCB to the world of potential candidates. We reached out to all of you, the survey, the focus groups, the Beyond Categorical Thinking workshop, we asked, who are we at UUCB? What are our needs? What do we want? What are our gifts and challenges? We synthesized all your inputs by the December 1st deadline. Then we published all of your inputs in our congressional record, along with a thick packet of documents describing every facet of UUCB. Out into the world they flew. By December 1st, based on your inputs, we formulated the criteria for our best match, 7 points. A people person who connects deeply and will see us and know us. Commitment and ability in pastoral care. Spiritually inspiring sermons and worship services. A collaborative leader and team builder. Committed support of our social justice endeavors. Ability to connect with and inspire all age groups. And ability to foster our connections to the wider UU and other faith communities. In the second part, on January 2nd, the world replied with a sizable batch of applicants, each with a very long resume. We became consumed with reading, interviewing, and narrowed down the pool of applicants to 3 pre-candidates. Then more interviewing, reference checks, and planning 3 three-day weekends in March. We enjoyed hours and hours of conversation with each pre-candidate and observing each pre-candidate in a worship service, conducting a worship service in a nearby UU church. Based on our criteria, we reached a unanimous consensus. Reverend Marcus stood out on top from a group of exceptional ministers. We are truly lucky that he applied, that you called him as our new minister, and that he accepted us. The whole search worked so well due to the principles that governed our work. Essentially, we relied on the skills we learned and practiced in chalice circles. We worked in covenant, valuing and listening to each member's perspectives, insisting that each one be included in every step. When we had differences, we explored them respectfully, letting them deepen our understanding and strengthening our consensus. I think others will share my feeling that this was the most effective and pleasurable team experience I have ever had. We are grateful to the congregation, to you, for choosing us to represent your interests. Now, our work completed, the disillusion of the Ministerial Search Committee is bittersweet. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. And I hope that you can all join me in a special thanks for all of the members of your Ministerial Search Committee. I don't know if you can raise your hands where you are, and to the family members of those on the search committee who loaned the church your loved ones for more time than you could have imagined it would be. So thank you all, and I hope you can join me in thanking them all. So I've got two stories to share with you this morning, something to give you and some thoughts about the time that we've had together. So let's start with one of the stories. Y'all ready? These are Michelle-style stories. They were bouncing everywhere on my kitchen floor. Okay, I can follow my line of thinking pretty well on this one. I had ordered a gross of bouncy balls, 144 altogether, for a project I was working on at church. They came in one plastic bag all together. Folks who know a little of how my mind works will probably understand why the first thought to go through my head when I was holding this bag of 144 neon-colored bouncy balls was, I wonder how high they'll bounce. So I held out the bag and I dropped it. And they didn't bounce at all. Now, if the rational part of my brain had been operating at that point, it would have said something like rubber balls are both transmit energy and absorb it. And when the bag of the balls hits the ground, the energy is transmitted between the balls, so they absorb each other's energy, so there's none left that gets translated into force that sends the bag up into the air. But no, a joyful bag of neon-colored bouncy balls does not reside anywhere near the rational part of my brain. So instead, I said, I must need to drop it from higher up. So I held it up over my head, and this time, when it fell, it did bounce about an inch. It couldn't help it from that height. Of course, this only fueled the joyful insanity higher. So I threw it all the way to the ceiling, and it came down, and yes, bouncing happened because the bag burst open, and the balls went bouncing all over the kitchen. What is it that you have that's bursting to be free? What's yearning to burn brightly in this world? And like the plastic bag was to the bouncy balls, what's holding you back? What's holding you back individually, and what's holding you back as a faith community? Now, this question actually has theological dimensions. Believe it or not, rubber-colored bouncy balls in theology. Of the many possible origins for the word religion, one is related to the Latin word religare, meaning to bind together. I've always loved this interpretation. Religion binds us together as human beings and brings our paths and our journeys together. Not to be the same journey, but to walk together on each of our journeys bound together with common quests and common values. But to take it even further, religare may have an even more specific meaning. According to some folks, it can also mean literally the binding strap that tied wood that was meant to burn in bundles. Religare is what gathers us, the burning sticks, together. Now, I love this image of religion. Religion brings together and binds together these pieces of potential. The potential for fire and energy and change. Religion brings us together and gets us ready to burn. This is one of the things that I want most from members of a church, to be able to seek out and live your potentials, your passions, and what brings you joy. A quote, I love this quote. It's attributed to Howard Thurman, but there's question as to whether he actually said it, but it's a fabulous quote. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. People who have come alive, that's what the world needs, what this church needs, and what Unitarian Universalism needs. People who found passion and joy that makes them come alive. One of my hopes for you all that I've tried to embody during our time together is that you will seek and spread joy around you in the world. To help remind you of that, I have a bowl of neon-colored bouncy balls that's out in the atrium. There's more than a gross of them, so you can all take 2 if you want, but be careful, put them in your pockets so we don't have neon-colored bouncy tripping hazards all over the place in the church. But you can grab a couple of those to remind you about the joy bursting forth that couldn't help it. We have had quite a journey in the past 3 years. Reverend Christian and Reverend Kristen had just finished up a 4-year settlement here, which, by the way, is the current average nationwide for length of ministerial settlements. We were 5 months, that's a change over time. We could get into the changes in religion, but that's like 10 sermons for another day. At the time I started in August of 2020, we were 5 months into the full-scale COVID pandemic and operating entirely in virtual mode. I didn't meet many of y'all in person for a year or a year and a half after my start here. To say there were changes and transitions going on would be an understatement. But UUCB rose to the challenge many numbers of times and is stronger as a result. It has been amazing to watch how this community has stepped up and risen to many needs, how individuals have faced unexpected situations with grace and perseverance, and how previously conflicted situations have lessened and relationships have changed and grown. And y'all know what I'm talking about there, right? Oh, yes. Now, I talk a lot about resilience, personal resilience, communal resilience, every single facet of resilience. And actually, one new member here told me he was thinking back through a number of my sermons, and he goes, wow, it's like they fit together and fit on a common theme. And I'm thinking, yeah, I talk about resilience in every single one of them. So that's why I started the ritual of naming and lighting candles for the foundations of resilience. Anyone remember when I started that? Okay, a few people. It was my second in-person service here, out in the parking lot, fall of 2021. The pandemic was stretching on, and it seemed like we all needed the most, what we needed the most was reminders of what it takes to get through. Those foundations, let's see if y'all can name them. You ready? Courage, acts of service, fellowship, hope. They were based on an article written by Unitarian Frederick May Elliott in 1942. Those reminders have been needed during the challenges of the pandemic, figuring out how to do community, then adjusting to the ever-changing realities. But okay, let's name them again. You ready? Courage, acts of service, fellowship, hope. You got them now. You've got them committed to heart now. So it's time to take steps forward with whatever reminders may be needed next. So I'll be taking the ritual with me and the candles, since I think y'all are on solid ground and don't need the explicit reminder every week anymore. So I'm going to pack up those candles at the end of the service, and I will take them to where I go next. We have loved each other through ups and through downs during this time. The church has faced challenges, to be sure, but every church does. What says a lot about one's character is how you get through them and what you go to next. And I think UUCB is in a good place. There will be challenges, but I can say without reservation that I'm feeling hopeful for the next phase of this church's life. There's a lot of good energy and good feeling here, and the church is in good hands, both Reverend Marcus's and in all of your own hands. There are good hands holding this church. All right, so what might that future look like? I have a second story for you, and that I hope will leave you with some inspiration, Michelle style. This one has illustrations to go with it. All right, The Big Orange Splot by Daniel Manus Pinkwater. Mr. Plumbean, that's him, he's awesome looking, isn't he? Lived on a street where all the houses are the same. He liked it that way. So did everyone else on Mr. Plumbean's street. This is a neat street, they'd say. Then one day, a seagull flew over Mr. Plumbean's house. He was carrying a can of bright orange paint. No one knows why. And he dropped the can, no one knows why, right over Mr. Plumbean's house. It made a big orange splot on the roof. "Oh, too bad," everyone said. "Mr. Plumbean will have to paint his house again." "I suppose I will," said Mr. Plumbean, but he didn't paint the house right away. He looked at the big orange spot for a long time. Then he went about his business. The neighbors, those neighbors, got tired of seeing the big orange spot. Someone said, "Mr. Plumbean, we wish you'd get around to painting your house." "Okay," said Mr. Plumbean. He got some blue paint and some white paint, and that night he got busy. He painted at night because it was cooler then, of course. When the paint was gone, his roof was blue, the walls were white, and the big orange spot was still there. Then he got some more paint. He got red paint, yellow paint, green paint, and purple paint. In the morning, the other people on the street came out of their houses. Their houses were all the same. But Mr. Plumbean's house was like a rainbow, a jungle, an explosion. There was the big orange spot, and there were little orange spots. And there were stripes. There were pictures of elephants and lions and pretty girls and steam shovels. The people said, "Plumbean has popped his cork, flipped his wig, blown his stack." They went away muttering. That day, Mr. Plumbean bought carpenter's tools. That night, he built a tower on top of his roof, and he painted a clock on the tower. The next day, Plumbean the people said, "Plumbean has gushed his mush, lost his marbles." They decided they would pretend not to notice. That very night, Mr. Plumbean got a truck full of green things. He planted palm trees, baobabs, thorn bushes, onions. In the morning, he bought a hammock and an alligator. When the other people came out of their houses, they saw Plumbean swinging on a hammock between two palm trees. They saw the alligator lying in the grass. Mr. Plumbean was drinking lemonade. "Plumbean has gone too far. This used to be a neat street." "Plumbean, what have you done to your house?" they shouted. "My house is me and I am it. My house is where I like to be and it looks like all my dreams," said Mr. Plumbean. The people went away. They asked the man who lived next door to Mr. Plumbean to go and have a talk with him. Tell him we all liked it here before he changed his house. Tell him that his house has to be the same as ours so we can have a neat street. The man went to see Mr. Plumbean that evening. They sat under the palm trees, drinking lemonade and talking all night long. Early the next morning, the man went out to get lumber and rope and nails and paint. When the people came out of their houses, they saw a red and yellow ship next door to the house of Mr. Plumbean. "What have you done to your house?" they said to the neighbor. "My house is me and I am it. My house is where I like to be and it looks like all my dreams," said the man who had always loved ships. "He's just like Plumbean," the people said. Then one by one, they went to see Mr. Plumbean late at night. They would sit under the palm trees and drink lemonade, or whatever it might have been, and talk about their dreams. And whenever anybody visited Mr. Plumbean's house, the very next day, that person would set about changing his or her own house to fit their dreams. Whenever a stranger came to the street of Mr. Plumbean and his neighbors, the stranger would say, "This is not a neat street." Then all the people would say, "Our street is us and we are it. Our street is where we like to be and it looks like all our dreams." Don't you just love all the messages in that story? I've been wanting to share it with y'all for a while and I decided this was my last chance. So I'm going to highlight a few of them, but I hope you will take it all to heart. The street in the beginning of the story, the one everyone was used to, the neat street, that's church as it used to be. Even before COVID, there have been changes happening for decades, but the slow-moving perception of the church was far behind. COVID only highlighted that, and at the same time, it forced changes on everyone. The seagull and the paint in the story could be so many things, so many fulcrums that change might happen around. And even after embracing the change, Mr. Plumbean faced all sorts of pressures to revert, pressures to stop innovating, to stop leaning into the change, leaning into the new. Does that sound familiar? Uh-huh. And there isn't just one version of new. Every single neighbor who started leaning into every single neighbor who started leaning into it found a different new that was calling them. The future is just as uncertain and just as multifaceted. Now, Mr. Plumbean's street could get away with something that you can't. Aside from supporting the fact that they each had dreams, the neighbors there could go off on all of their own different visions. Because you remember, you saw all the houses were different. It's more complicated for a church. And yes, you are filled with many different folks with different things that energize you. And that's a really great thing, but the church itself needs a cohesive direction. If you were to ask me what's the biggest challenge I see right now for UUCB, that's it. I can't make out a cohesive direction and a cohesive identity here. I noticed it particularly during the workshops about Freestone, when I could hear something like 8 or 9 different missions for the church. All these different missions, and I've heard this in many other programs and settings too. It is a balance that as a church you have to do. The dance of embracing the diversity and the many passions here, but also finding a common direction for the church. But to truly utilize the energy and strength here, it's going to have to be found. Now, during that future, I'll be watching from afar, but only from afar. That's one of the hardest parts of leaving, the leaving part. Despite how much we may want to stay connected, it is healthiest to let go. Healthiest for the church and for me also. We have to let go of each other. It doesn't mean that we don't care about each other, quite the contrary. It's hard, and I admit it's hard as anything for me. It's hard to let go precisely because we do care about each other. Thank you for the journey that we have shared. Thank you for everything each of you has shared with me. Thank you for forgiving me when I messed things up or forgot things. Thank you for the energy and ideas that you've shared. Thank you for your vulnerability and for your trust. Thank you to those of you who said yes when I recruited you for something. And thank you even if you said, no, I can't right now. Thank you for the support and for your high expectations that have helped me to become a better minister. And thank you for the endings that we are sharing now. I have been truly blessed by our journey together, and I hope that you have felt blessed through my ministry on that journey. I wish love and blessings for each and every one of your lives, for every day of your lives, and for every relationship. I wish blessings and passion for you here at UUCB, both for the big things and the little ones too. May you all have joy, compassion, energy, and enthusiasm. And may that fiery passion be sustained. And I mean all of that when I say, blessed be.
We invite you now into the spiritual practice of generosity. It's time for the offering. Instead of passing the plate, you can give electronically by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge, or you can put a cash or check donation into the donation envelope that you'll find in the back of the pew in front of you. Write your name on it and mark offering plate or pledge. And then put it into the donation box right outside or beside the fountain in the atrium as you leave the service. Each week, half of our offering plate is shared with a nonprofit good neighbor. This month, we share our offering plate with the Sunwork Renewable Energy Project. Sunwork's purpose is to empower people to adopt solar power where it hasn't been economically practical in the past. By making solar more affordable for low energy footprint homeowners and for nonprofits, Sunwork puts solar power within more people's reach. Thank you.
Please join me now in dedicating our offering. We dedicate ourselves and our offering to the mission of this congregation to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service.
Just a couple of announcements for today. Next week, we'll be showing the General Assembly Worship Service, which is the national, actually continental, actually there's some places not on the continent. Anyways, really big Unitarian Universalist annual gathering. We'll be sharing their Sunday morning worship service. Now, we'll be showing it here in the sanctuary, but we will not be live streaming it through Facebook or YouTube. So if you join us virtually, you'll need to go to the UUA's webpage to be able to click on that link yourself. We'll have the link on our website. And I hear there's like a shindig or something after church. It'll be in the social hall. All right, let's have one last song together. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing The Fire of Commitment. 1028 in the teal hymnal, and the words will be on screen.
Spirit into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion is to follow away, when we live in assurance of our faith that grows within.
This is my charge to you, to let your mind and soul be set ablaze, to let your passions and your commitments guide you, to remember that which is important, the strength of relationships and of this community, to hold one another with compassion and with grace, to not get stuck in the mud or in the past, and most of all, to keep seeking and spreading joy in all you do. Blessed be. And I'm suspicious of why they're up here right now.